battle the president faces in Congress. We're joined now by the former chair of the DNC and founder of Democracy for America, and the only person at this table who won a presidential state primary. I looked it up. Governor Howard Dean, how are you? Thank you for being here.
Very impressive, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let's break it down for people who are watching. Luke just talked about the intensive lobbying effort that's going on. Is there any real chance here that Congress could actually shoot down the president's deal?
There is. It's complicated, and the politics is incredibly complicated. First of all, most of the people who are talking about this haven't read the agreement. I started. It's 159 pages in the Manchester Guardian because I don't trust any of the American papers to write about it in a thoughtful, balanced way. So I think it'll probably pass because I think he'll get the number of Democrats in one house or the other to stop something that will certainly pass, which is the disapproval resolution. The question is this a good deal? I don't think anybody knows yet. We've got to see exactly what the penalties are for violations. We have to see exactly how long this goes. We know about the 15 years. One of the things that concerns me is, you know, there's 2,500 political prisoners in Iraq. They're Iranians that the Iranian government is responsible for starving to death, or trying to starve them to death. We promised those people we would save them. They've done nothing about it. So the United States, the State Department, and they're so busy negotiating with Iran. What about all the other promises we've made? So who's being thrown under the bus in order to get this deal done? That's what I don't like about this deal.
Yeah, and I don't even think the president knows for sure whether this is a good deal longer term or not. He just spoke, as you know, gave a long press conference taking on a number of questions here. Where I thought he was his strongest is when he said we have exhausted all diplomatic options here. This is now about war or about coming together.
I totally disagree with that. And again, I'm not against this, and I'm not for it yet. I want to see more. But to say that the war is going to be the result of not passing this is, I think, is an exaggeration. We don't know. War could be the result of passing it, because if they develop the bomb 15 years from now, then we're going to have to do something about it. So this is much too complicated for us to sit here and say this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's clearly not a good thing. The question is it the least bad of all our options? It may be.
What about the money, though? Because that's where I thought he wasn't able to answer that question well.
I agree.
This money is going to ultimately go to the hands of Hezbollah, of Hamas, of terrorists, and that is a bad outcome.
And that could lead to the reintroduction of troops in the Middle East. So this is very complicated. I think this is all fun to have to do all this on cable, but most of these politicians, Boehner was the most honest. When I decide I think I'm against this, everybody else is just saying I'm against this. They don't know what's in it.
Well,
they don't know what's in it, and they haven't thought out the consequences of what's in it.
I mean, the way most of them spoke, it seemed that they had pre-decided that they were against it. But Chuck Schumer is emerging as the bellwether senator who's truly reading and weighing and not sure which way he's going to go. And whichever way he goes decides will this be an easy fight or not.
Chuck Schumer is the most interesting guy because, A, he's one of the smartest people in the Senate. B, he will probably read the entire thing word for word, and C, he has a very pro-Israel constituency in his home state. So I think Chuck Schumer is going to have a lot to say about what happens, because I think people are going to respect and trust his judgment, whatever it may be.
This debate is certainly going to spill over into the 2016
That, I think, is a very interesting
campaign.
That, I actually think, helps the Democrats, and here's why. The problem with the Republicans is George W. Bush. The last time we heard rhetoric of the kind they're using was their president sending 250,000 troops to Iraq. I mean, this is going to be very bad for Jeb Bush. The American people, the polls show the American people are very skeptical about the Iranians, as they should be. They also show that they do not want to send troops to the Middle East. Right. So if the Republicans, people like Tom Cotton, are great as far as I'm concerned, because they are using this flamethrower rhetoric. And if that becomes the brand of the Republican Party, which it is, nobody is going to want a Republican president, and they certainly aren't going to want a Bush as a Republican president.
Do you think that Secretary Clinton will ultimately fully embrace this deal? She sounds right now a bit like you. She's sort of keeping her options open.
Well, she's doing the smart thing. You got to read it before you know if you can embrace it or not. And then you've got to sit down with really smart people about foreign policy. And I'm not talking about the Iran specialists in the State Department. I'm talking about really smart people who know the area well and game it out, just like the president's done. Maybe they'll come to the same conclusion as the president. I don't know. But very few people know what's in this agreement, and more people have to know before we can make up our mind.
All right, Governor Howard Dean, thanks as always for being